So, if you're passionate about music, and especially if you play an instrument, guitars, drums, piano, bass, you're probably not going to like what I have to say. You might consider me alarmist, you might consider me pessimistic. But the thing is, there are a lot of conclusions that can be drawn when you assimilate all the information that you're getting about what's happening with technology, what's happening with AI, what's happening with late stage shareholder capitalism. And definitely no one at least in the musical guitar YouTube space, is joining all the dots and giving this narrative. So it's a culmination of a lot of videos that I've been doing. It's a culmination of a lot of things that I've been noticing. And I'm going to get into this very important topic now. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Ministry of Guitar. My name is Utkarsh Mohan. As always, if you like what I'm doing, please do like, subscribe, and share. All the audience participation, watching, growth in subscribers, watch time, that literally is the fuel to the fire for me to encourage me to make these videos. So I really appreciate it. And I really mean it. I really appreciate the encouragement and I would love more of it. Now, this topic, as I was saying, it's a culmination of a lot of things. In a way, you could look at this as a sister video to the other video I just made about a week ago, which talked a little bit about the general state of the music industry. But this one is a little bit broader than that. And there are two or three experiences that I'm going to use to tell you the conclusions that I'm going to provide for you. Number one is, of course, for those of you who know who I am, I've been playing guitar for close to 20 years. I've been a gigging musician. I use air quotes because it's all very amateur, though we do work with my band for a lot of private shows across the city in Singapore. I've been at it for the last 18 years, on and off. So, though I'm not a working musician, I do have a sense of what it is to perform and to play. The second part of it, which is more important in the context of the video that we're talking, is my main career, which is 15 years in the corporate world, and specifically in senior management and in marketing. Because this gave me exposure to how businesses work, how businesses make decisions, how big businesses make decisions on behalf of shareholders, what are their objectives. And marketing, of course, is the entire field of persuading people to do what you want, right? So how are narratives built, etc. So again, those of you familiar with my channel will know this about me. So my apologies if it's a touch repetitive. Now, I want to start this off not with my own life, not with the 21st century, but with a rather archaic little thing. What do we have over here? This is a fountain pen. It's the kind of pen that you dip into a bowl of of ink, and then you write. If you think about how a lot of important developments in the world happened, they happened with some variation of this, whether it be ancient scrolls that you can find, whether it be the penning down of the Constitution of the United States of America. I mean, practically till the 19th or 20th, don't quote me on dates, I'm not a pen historian. All the work, all the important things, all the translation, creation of ideas, of course, you had a printing press to replicate it, but a lot of it was done using this particular piece of technology. Today, who uses a manual fountain pen? And I'm going to use the word manual very deliberately here. Who does it manually? Who does this kind of manual labor, so to speak? Nobody. Maybe some calligraphists who do it as a hobby. Maybe you might do it because you might enjoy doing it, but this is not a part of the economy today. It used to be, but today you don't even write with a normal ballpoint pen. You do sometimes, but mostly it's typing. Right? Everything is done. Communications, emails, documentation. Everything is done via other technology that has gone past. Not only that, think about, say, the fabric that you and I may be wearing. Everything is automated. There's nothing much manual. You can have manually created leather shoes crafted by artisans and whatever. Or you may have that sweater that your grandmother knit for you. But again, that is not where the economy is not working on manual labor in these industries. The economy is working on automation, so to speak, right? The assembly lines, the automation of how clothes are made. And you can use multiple analogies. Now, the thing is, when we play instruments, whether it is drums, whether it is guitar, whether it is keyboards, piano, we don't think of it as a manual process, as manual labor, because it's not labor, right? We're enjoying ourselves. But if you put this in the context of industrial output, in the context of a company's work, in the context of an industry, it is a process that is done manually by humans. That is the reality. Whether you and I like doing it or not is a different matter. It is a manual process. And what has been happening steadily over the last 300 years, since the Industrial Revolution, since the Enlightenment, is that manual processes, or let me take a further step back. With the advent of capitalism, which is a great thing, again, I keep saying this. I mean, one of the biggest memes on my channel is people say this guy criticizes capitalism, but he loves it, he's confused. I think capitalism is good to a level. So, what has happened with capitalism, with the division of labor, with all the principles that we have learned, is that gradually, with the help of technology, we have been removing the manual part from things that drive the industry, in things that drive the economy wherever possible. So initially it was possible to replace the self-walking or the horse-driven cart with steam engines, with automobiles. It was possible to replace manual labor to create clothes or create anything with factories. Everything that was manual, wherever you could get a machine to replace it, that's what we've been doing. It's not starting now with the AI craze. It's been happening since well before our grandfathers and great-grandfathers and their great-grandfathers were born. It's been happening for generations at this point. So replacing the nature of business, the nature of a capitalistic society, to replace manual labor with an automated, cheaper, more consistent process is nothing new. It's been happening for 300 years. Now, what's happening now is that the nature of what can be replaced, the kind of manual labor that can be replaced by machinery, there's been a sudden jump and an advancement in that. And that is where things kind of come over to our side of things, come to the musician side of things. Because till 40 years ago, the creation of sounds that are pleasant, I mean, of course, nature makes pleasant sounds, but the creation of commercially packaged pieces of sound that can create an economy that people will buy or now stream, it was relatively manual. Then, of course, you started having synthesizers, drum machines, etc. But there was always a very, very manual human component, because nothing could exactly sound like a wonderful pianist. Nothing could exactly sound like a great guitarist. There is a question of tone and there's a question of performance. The question of tone, I would say in the last 10-15 years, has effectively been replaced. Or rather, it has been, the challenge has been surmounted, because you can get almost perfect tone. The drum softwares that you use, you know how good, all these programmed drums sound. Pianos, you can get amazing performances, and it's getting better and better every day. So what is happening is that the manual labor that it used for a human to firstly invest the time to sit and learn an instrument, years and years sometimes, in fact more than years and years, to get really good at it, invest the time to learn an instrument and then to do a performance. That entire manual process, that entire laborious process, because you look at something from an economic standpoint, that is time, energy, and labor that is going into that process. That whole thing, the requirement to, say, create a great performance of, I don't know, some Moonlight Sonata, I'm making it up, right? You needed a pianist who's gotten to grade whatever level in classical piano, and then it's their performance, and then you need a real piano to get that sound. Today, you can get it done through a prompt. You're practically there, because the piano sound can be created. And the purists will argue with me that nothing quite sounds like the imperfection of a human performance. And I would say it's true. But if you've been paying any attention to so many crazy AI videos, songs that are coming out, you will notice that the difference is really there only if somebody is looking for it. So, and even if it's not there yet, I'm not arguing to say that the AI tools are there yet. It's just a matter of a very short amount of time where they will be able to simulate that that human performance. So, the point is that you no longer need this investment of labor and time and in potential, and that comes with potential sources of inconsistency to create a musical performance. Now let's bring, this is where technology has brought us to. So in the past, you need a human who's learned for years and years to perform something. Today, it's literally a prompt that you can do and you can get a performance. That's where we are today, or we will be there maybe in a few months. Now let's look at it from a business standpoint. Now, I've been lucky enough to be operating, or rather working for very, very large companies, probably one of the, at least one of the most iconic companies that at least from an American standpoint. So I do have the way this company operates is kind of a template for big business, because if you look at the companies that occupied, say, the S&P 500 or whatever is the equivalent, of forgetting the term. 80 years ago, it was this company. Today, also, this company is part of that group. So a lot of way big businesses run, how they optimize for profit, how they optimize for shareholders. You can get a good sense of it. And I have been in many, many discussions where we've had, what happens is in big business, you are ultimately delivering a target that Wall Street wants you to deliver. There's no getting away from it. It'll get translated down to you. So maybe the company needs to grow 5% and it needs to grow profit 10% and it needs to grow whatever operating margin, whatever number. It'll get translated down to you. And what will happen to you as the leader of a business unit or a certain portion of your company is then you have the responsibility to either grow the revenue or to cut down the costs. Neither of the two are easy, but often cutting down on costs is easier because it's more under your control. Right, you can create more demand for your product, but people buying more product ultimately depends on the people. But if you have a fixed amount of money that you're spending on your business, there are ways and means to cut it. And I can't tell you the number of times we've had workshops on, okay, we need to find $50 million in savings or $10 million in savings. How can we spend $10 million less? Whatever the numbers might be. Now, if you're working for the music industry, just to take as an example, and you are beholden to some shareholder. And again, if you think that record companies are operating in a vacuum, they are private companies who don't care about shareholder, you would probably know that what is happening is that a lot of large companies are buying up catalogs, hedge funds are buying up catalogs. Basically, the entire output of the music industry is getting turned into a profit and loss venture. It's just happening. It's just reality, like it or not. So then, suppose you have got old music. So if think of me as a product manager. My product is the music that I have rights to. I have the old stuff that people will still listen to, the Beatles or whatever. Don't need to do much there. Unfortunately, have to pay a royalty to the artist or their descendants. But okay, that's part of my cost of operating business. Too bad. What about the new stuff? How do I get rid of the pesky artists who I need to pay so much for? Oh, okay. Firstly, what does it cost to make a record? Oh, I need to pay money for session musicians. Why? Why? If you want a guitar performance playing D, A, G, just program it. Get rid of the stupid session musicians who cost money for no reason. I don't need them. Okay, what else? Oh, the songwriting. Okay. I know I need somebody with an understanding of music, with good musical taste to curate, but he can literally use AI or she can literally use AI to churn out 25, 30 different variations of hit songs. Test them. Now, let me tell you something. When you see the advertisements that you see, they don't just reach you just like that. What people do in the marketing business is you make multiple variations of advertisements. Even in the days when you had to shoot multiple advertisements, they were doing this. But imagine now it's so cheap because you can just use AI to make multiple different versions, make a few difference to the scenes. They test it, they see which one has the best response, and then they release it. So you can start doing the same thing with songs. Okay, I don't know whether these songs will do well. Which one maximizes streaming time? Which one maximizes time on the platform? Let me test these 5 different songs to a small audience. Instead of releasing it to all million people, let me release it to 1,000 people first. Test which one performs best. Release. There is no cost to this because using AI and technology with a human who has the curation, who can do the curation, you can create infinite variations. All of these songs, all these performances can be created without human intervention. Hell, the voice can be interpreted. Can be synthesized, not interpreted. So then you really don't need the human. You need human taste, but that's one person, or maybe two people or three people. But the entire ecosystem that you had of musicians and performers, etc., that's not required. I know what you're going to get into now. What about the human? What about the artist? What about the story about the artist? And folks, unfortunately, think about the famous Matrix scene of the Morpheus blue pill and red pill, and forgetting which one shows you reality. But I think it's a red pill. I don't know, but I'm giving you that pill right now. What you perceive as your connection to an artist or the story, it can be heavily synthesized easily just by spending money. You can create a story that is compelling. You have to spend the money so that the story reaches enough people. And that's it. You can just pick up a token person. And it's not new, by the way. If you look at Boney M from the 1970s, one of my favorite artists, if you see Boney M, you basically see like the two or three dancing girls and the guy who does the Rasputin thing or whatever. The Boney M is a manufactured band. The guy is somebody else. The performers, the musicians are somebody else. The band that you see is just literally performers for the sake of dancing. They're literally dancers. They're not actually the ones who are singing, or they're not the ones who are making the music. So manufacturing personality and story is not very difficult. It's very cheap. So then, going back to from a business perspective, option A, the way they used to do it, we find a band, they are writing songs, there's a guy writing songs. Then you have, I get, either they perform the songs well, or I get these expert session musicians that come and do everything. Or option two, I first sit using the data, which I talked about in my other video. Let me analyze what they want. So I think based on the data, the analysis is predicting that we want songs that sound like Taylor Swift, but have a little bit of Billie Eilish's darkness, I'm making it up. Okay, let's do that. Okay, this sort of thing appeals to this demographic. So the right kind of artist who appeals to this demographic is Latino, whatever. I'm making up all these things here. Okay, let's find the right person. Okay, now this needs to have this kind of songs. Let's task our expert curator, expert songwriter. He doesn't need to sit and write the songs himself. He just needs to use AI tools. He doesn't need anyone else. One person can create everything. Done. All I'm paying for is a little bit, perhaps. Maybe I give the artist a one-time fee. Maybe I want to invest in the artist, so I have a deal with the artist that, okay, I give you a small percentage, but I keep most of the money. And suddenly, as a business owner, my cost of goods, the cost of creating the music, the cost of creating this goes down to very little compared to before. So my main point here is business has been trying to replace manual labor for ages, and it's been doing it for ages, wherever possible, whether enabled by technology. Started off with transportation, then factories, etc. It was all relatively low intelligence, for lack of a better word. I'm using this term very carefully. What colloquially you would call blue collar work, which was traditionally replaced with machines. Now what is happening, and by the way, musicians can blue collar as well. You can't say musician is white collar work, but essentially what's happening with the AI revolution is you're having the ability to replace white collar work, the white collar manual labor, so to speak, the intelligence manual labor, the manual labor that's based on the human being using their mind more than their body. And honestly, with musicians, it's body as well. But this sort of thing, which typically was beyond the realm of machines, is now possible. It's now possible to replace this with machines, with all the processing power and all the advancements that we've made in AI. And business is going to absolutely incorporate this. So what's going to happen is whoever, firstly, there'll be two things that happen. If you're already playing an instrument, you will find that there is probably no means of making a living playing an instrument, except maybe you get to play some live venues here and there, or perhaps they need to create the illusion of a band. They want to create something in a live setting. So maybe live could be one place that could survive, but anything to do with the studio, anything to do with creation of the product, it's probably not going to occur anymore. So that's one big thing that's going to happen. Second thing is a future impact, because you need to do so much to learn an instrument, particularly something like guitar, where you have to go through the fingers bleeding and everything. Today, there's been plenty of incentive for people to do it. There is this romance of a life spent working in music, doing your passion. As those opportunities of living a life working in music reduce, the romance of that life and the number of people attracted to the life will reduce, because they simply, just economically, there won't be enough opportunities anymore. And so you'll have less and less people inclined to learn an instrument, to go through the trouble of learning an instrument when that sound can be created. I mean, think about it. How many of us are expert calligraphers, right? We just type. How many of us, think of any manual thing in the world today that you can just get done by a machine. There's very few things that we do manually anymore. Where there's a machine that we can use, we will use a machine. Like if self-driving cars come, guaranteed that most people will not bother to learn driving. And unfortunately, the musical equivalent of self-driving cars is already here. The musician's equivalent, because you have self-playing instruments, frankly, except that the instruments are on the computer. So, point is, the musical instrument will ultimately be relegated to a hobby item, a sideshow, something for people to get together in little hobby groups, like people may get together today because some people love antiques, making it up, not dissing on antiques. But it will no longer be part of the real economy. It will not be no longer be a tool of the trade like it used to be. It is inevitable. There's nothing you and I can do about it. This is literally Industrial Revolution 2.0. I don't want you to get annoyed or depressed about this video. Just note that this is likely to happen because this is where economics is pushing us. Still enjoy your instruments, still continue to play them, but do expect this trend to happen. Do not be surprised. And yeah, just be happy despite of it. Just take it as time and tide moving on and waiting for no man. All right, I hope this was helpful. Hope this was interesting. I would love to hear your opinions. I'll see you next time.